So, I popped into High House Insurance to see if they could quote for my house insurance rather than using the internet. High House got a great deal. So to celebrate, I bought a posh hairdo. It made me look beautiful, gorgeous enough to become a highly paid model. I then won Celebrity Big Brother. I had an affair with an MP. Now I'm promoting a doll of me that says, "Cool blimey, you're well fit."
Happy things happen when you talk face-to-face with High House Insurance. See if we can beat your home insurance quote from the internet. Find us on the High Street, Selsey, or call 606 552.
Hello and a very warm welcome to Manhood Internet Radio. I'm Tony Weiner, your host for this show. Well, it's very cold outside, but we have lots to listen to keep you warm. In fact, we start the show with another roundup of what's on, which includes the tide times, and this of course will be very valuable if you want to dip in the sea. We then go over to Keith, who is talking to Bruce Allinson about his colourful early life. Ooh, vicar! Yes, I know, Methodist ministers are not vicars. Anyway, we then go over to Keith's kitchen to hear what he has rustled up for us, and with a full belly, we will be able to take on another brain buster from Kevin. Okay then, here we go, and it's Alison's roundup of what's on in the area.
Hello there, and welcome once again to our weekly roundup of what's going on, both in Selsey and the rest of the Manhood Peninsula. So let's start off in the town first of all, Wednesday the 15th of February. It'll be time for the Model Boat Club, if the weather's good enough, at East Beach Pond. That's from 10 o'clock until 12 o'clock. And in the afternoon on Wednesday, Crafty Natter Club meets. That's at the Methodist Church Hall. They meet at 2 o'clock, finishing at 4 o'clock. If you're interested in that one, then do have a word with Lisa on 601 032. Later on at the Methodist Hall in the evening, the community choir practices. They meet at 7 and finish at 8:30. And also on Wednesdays, it's carpet bowls at Medbury Primary School in School Lane. They also meet at 7, but they finish at 8. On Thursday the 16th, it's time for the Seal Island WI monthly meeting. They're having a talk and presentation by Liz Harling from Bignor Roman Villa. New ladies, of course, will be very welcome. You need to speak to Melanie on 604 059 about that, and that will be held at 7:30 in the evening at the Selsey Centre. Earlier in the day at the Selsey Centre, Mobile Soft Play will be having a session. You need to speak to Sue or Tom if you're interested in that. It's a soft play session for the under 5s at the Selsey Centre between 10 and 11:30. Their number is 604 642. Probably know about the RSPB at Pagham Harbour Visitor Centre. Well, they're looking for more volunteers. If you're interested, why not go along to their taster day? They're looking for people who have a passion for wildlife to help them to deliver to schools and reserves programmes at Pagham Harbour and Medbury. For more information about that, you need to speak to Lucy Tozer. Her number is 01798 875 851. That's Lucy Tozer, 0798 875 851. You can also email her lucy.tozer@rspb.org.uk. Also on Thursday, it's Mixed Ability Bridge. That will be held at the Selsey Club in Cox's Road between 2 o'clock and 5 o'clock in the afternoon. Keith is your man for that, 603 082, or Carol on 602250. Early evening on Thursday, the Lighthouse Youth Club for girls and boys for school years 5 to 8. That's held at East Beach Evangelical Church between 6:30 and 7:45 in the evening. Carpet bowls again between 7 and 8 at Medbury Primary School. There's also Ladies in Contact, Link. That's held at St Peter's Church Hall, and their speaker that on Thursday evening is the Reverend Andy Wilkes, calling himself 3 hats: soldier, fireman and parish priest. If you're interested in finding out more about Father Andy's 3 hats, do go along. The cost for the evening is £2, which will include refreshments and a raffle ticket. If you'd like to know a bit more before you go along, Mary Grantham, her number is 604718, or Beryl Fletcher on 603750. That's Link between 7:30 and 9 on Thursday. Also in the evening on Thursday, adult kickboxing will be held at the Selsey Centre between 8 and 9. Then on Friday the 17th, between 10 and 11:45, it's the Sunbeams Parent and Toddler Group. That's held at East Beach Church. If you want a few more details about that, you do need to speak to Rosemary. Her number is 605 236. Darby and Joan meet on a Friday between 2 and 4 at St Peter's Church Hall. And there's also Beginner's Bridge at the Selsey Club, Cox's Road, 2 o'clock until 4. Again, it's Keith, 603 082, or Carol, 6022 50. There's mindful music making in the afternoon between 2 and 3:30 at the shop on the High Street. If you're interested in booking, do contact Anna on 07912 609 437. That's Anna, 07912 609 437. And also on that afternoon, Bright Sparks Club meets between 5 and 6. That's for school years 1 to 4 at East Beach Evangelical Church in Marisfield Place. Carpet bowls on Saturday between 9:30 and 10:30 at Medmery Primary School, School Lane. And there's also going to be a Discover Pagham Harbour North guided walk this time. That's meeting at Pagham Harbour Visitor Centre. Their guides will take us on a gentle winter's walk along the tramway up as far as Sidlesham Quay and around the north side of the reserve. So if you're interested in finding out about the north side, do go along to that. You do need to book though. £7 a person, £4 if you're an RSPB member. The number to ring for that is 641 508. On Sunday, Wild Families Give Nature a Home, again at the RSPB Pagham Harbour and Medmery Centre. They tell us that with spring around the corner, birds and insects are starting to look for a place to nest and make homes. If you'd like to learn how to build a nest box that you can take home to encourage the birds to take up residence in your garden, do drop into this event. It costs £8 to create a nest box. That will be starting at 11 and finishing at 2 in the afternoon. Later in the afternoon on Sunday, John Crampton will be singing and playing at the Seal. That's between 3 and 5. Then at 3 also there's the Respite Tea at East Beach Evangelical Church. That's from 3 until 4. And again, carpet bowls between 3 and 4 at Medmery Primary School on School Lane. On Tuesday the 21st, mobile soft play will take place at the Selsey Centre. That's for the under 5s. Sue or Tom, once again 604 642. That's between 10 and 11:30. And then in the afternoon, kids kickboxing at the Selsey Centre. The 4 to 6s meet at 4:30 and the over 5s at 5 o'clock in the afternoon. That evening, it's netball for the adults between 7 and 8. If you're interested in joining in with that, you do need to speak to Penny on 07762 922 405. So adult netball is held at the Academy Main Sports Hall. Now let's have a look at the weather before we move over to what's happening in the Witterings. So on Wednesday the 15th we can expect a high of 11 degrees Celsius or 52 degrees Fahrenheit with thick cloud, 10 mile an hour southerly wind. On Thursday the 16th, a little lower in temperature, 48 degrees Fahrenheit, 9 degrees Celsius, light cloud this time, again a southerly wind, 8 miles an hour. On Friday the 17th, weather little cooler, 8 degrees centigrade, 46 degrees Fahrenheit, light cloud cover again, similar wind speed, 8 miles an hour, but this time an easterly. On Saturday the 18th, slight rise in temperature up to 9 degrees Celsius, 48 degrees Fahrenheit, but with thick cloud cover, 10 mile an hour southeasterly wind. On Sunday the 19th, slightly higher again, 10 degrees Celsius, so it's definitely going in the right direction, 50 degrees Fahrenheit, thick cloud cover, and east-southeasterly 12 mile an hour wind. On Monday the 20th, 11 degrees Celsius, 52 degrees Fahrenheit, positively tropical, again thick cloud cover, but with a southerly wind, 13 miles an hour. On Tuesday the 21st, we can expect the temperatures to hold steady at 11 or 52. Again, thick cloud, steady wind, 13 miles an hour, but a westerly. Let's have a look now at the tide tables. On Wednesday the 15th, we'll have a high at 2:05 in the afternoon and a low at 5 to 8 in the evening. Changing, of course, each day, with Tuesday the 21st ending with a high tide at 1:15 in the afternoon and a low tide at 7:30 in the evening. Let's move across now to the Witterings and Bracklesham and have a look at what's happening over there. We've got a few specials as well as their regular events. So let's do the specials first of all. On Wednesday the 15th, there's a coffee morning to be held at Russell's Garden Centre between 10 and 11:30. They're raising money for St Wilfrid's Hospice. And in the afternoon, there's Heart Space clay work. Don't know what that's going to be. Sounds very interesting. Why not go along to Bracklesham Barn to find out what it is between 1:30 and 3:30. Heart Space clay work. On Friday the 17th, the Witterings Quilters meet. They have their quilting bee at St Peter's Church Hall between 10:30 and 4:30. Judith Rogers is the contact for that on 511 431. And on Tuesday the 21st of February, it's time for the West Wittering Horticultural Society. They'll be having a talk by Steve Bradbury on winning the battle with garden pests. West Wittering Memorial Hall is the venue at 7:30 in the evening. And as usual, there is a lot going on round and about Witterings and Bracklesham, so I'll just run through their regular events now. Every Wednesday, it's table tennis. That's a drop-in session for adults at the barn between 10 and 12. There's also CBT motorcycle training at Bracklesham Barn between 9 and 11, but that is a pre-book arrangement. In the afternoon, it's time for belly dancing with Step Inside between 1 and 2. And then early evening, Louise will be doing Zumba at the barn between 6:30 and 7:30. And later in the evening, line dancing at the Royal British Legion between 7 and 9. On Thursdays, the Busybugs Toddler Gym meets at Bracklesham Barn between 9:15 and 12:15. And don't forget Stitch and Yarn at Wittering's Medical Centre between 10:30 and 12:30. And it's also Knit and Natter at East Wittering Library between 11 and 12:30. On Thursdays, the Wittering's Master Art Group meet. That's between 10 and 12. They can be found at the West Wittering Memorial Hall. And in the afternoon, it's a Keep Fit exercise class at East Wittering Village Hall between 2 and 3. West Wittering have their short mat bowls between 10 and 12 and 2 and 4 at the West Wittering Memorial Hall. If you're interested in the short mat bowls, then why not contact Chris on 07788 111325. I'll just repeat that number. It's Chris on 07788 111325. Later at East Wittering Village Hall, there's a mixed abilities Pilates group between 6 and 7. And then private ballroom and Latin at 7 at East Wittering Village Hall. If you want to book for that, then have a look at www.strictlydancinguk.co.uk. It's time for the Junior Youth Club on Thursday between 8 and 12 years of age at the Youth Centre. They meet at 5 and finish at 6:30. Then it's time for the seniors between 12 and 17 years of age, again at the Youth Centre between 6:30 and 8:30. And later on it's open mic at the Pond Barn at 8 o'clock. Every Friday, Pilates happens at Bracklesham Barn between 9:30 and 10:30. And then in the afternoon there's short mat bowls at the barn between 2 and 4. Coastliners line dancing takes place between 2 and 5 at East Wittering Village Hall. And there's the UK Film Academy at Bracklesham Barn between 5 and 9. Don't forget on a Friday it's jukebox night at Pond Barn between 7 and midnight. And again, private ballroom and Latin takes place at 7 at East Wittering Village Hall. Again, don't forget the address for that, www.strictlydancinguk.co.uk. On Sundays at Bracklesham Barn, the Windrush Church have their meeting between 10:30 and 12:45. And then later in the evening, there's modern jive dancing between 7:30 and 9 at East Wittering Village Hall. And in the evening at Pond Barn, it's quiz night, starting at 8. On Mondays at Bracklesham Barn, the Little Ducklings mother and toddler group meet between 9:30 and 11:30. Running alongside that, the short mat bowls between 10:30 and 1. Weight Watchers have their meeting on a Monday at 5:30 at East Wittering Village Hall. And then there's line dancing at the East Wittering Village Hall between 7 and 10. Yoga with Elaine takes place between 7 and 8:30 at Bracklesham Barn. And there's ARO Ladies Beginner Kickboxing. Verity will be doing that between 7:30 and 8:30 at Bracklesham Barn. On Tuesday, the Little Explorers have their Play and Learn Together session at Bracklesham Barn between 9:30 and 11 in the morning. There's meet and greet at West Wittering Memorial Hall for coffee, games, homemade soup and a roll between 10:15 and 1 o'clock. At Bracklesham Barn, Yoga with Elaine happens between 10 and 11. And then in the afternoon, between 2 and 3, there's a Keep Fit exercise class to be held at East Wittering's Village Hall. Don't forget Tai Chi at Bracklesham Barn between 4 and 5. And then in the evening, the Community Pop Choir will have their rehearsal at West Wittering Memorial Hall between 7 and 9. There's Badminton Club at Bracklesham Barn between 7:30 and 9:30. And at Pond Barn, there's free pool on a Tuesday. So that's about the roundup for the week. Hope you find something good to do, and I'll speak to you again next week. Bye for now.
Thank you, Alison. And I might forgo the sea dip this week. So while I think about that, we go over to Keith, who will reveal all.
Right, and here we go with last week's Kevin's Connections quiz answers. And Kevin asked us, Hertford, Jesus and Balliol are all colleges at which British university? And that was Oxford. Pete Doherty, Oscar Wilde and actor John Alford have all served time in which London prison? That's Pentonville. What was first implemented in Britain by William Pitt the Younger in his 1798 budget? And that was income tax. Which English city was the European Capital of Culture in 2008? That was Liverpool and Manchester. And at which football club did Gary Lineker start his professional career? That was, of course, Leicester City. And the connection is Monopoly. They're all names you'll find on a Monopoly board. Oxford Street, Pentonville Road, the Income Tax Office, Liverpool Street and Leicester Square. Fairly easy by Kevin's standards. Look forward to another one next week.
I don't think I'll tell you my score. Talking of tough challenges, here is Keith talking to Bruce Allinson.
My guest in the studio now is somebody that I've been waiting to meet, not to talk to about his present job, but more about his past. And with me now is Reverend Bruce Allinson. Good morning, Bruce.
Good morning, Keith.
Now, I call you Bruce, and I guess everybody else calls you Bruce, and I know you encourage that. So, But we've not come particularly to talk about your job as is, but what you've done in the past, because I believe you've had quite a colourful life up to yet.
Yeah, it's been a long road to God, really. As a young child in Tottenham, everybody knows Tottenham, sometimes for the wrong reasons, but it was a good place to grow up. I came from what was called a dysfunctional family. My mother died when I was a baby, and I had a father who worked all the time, so the kids sort of just grew up where they were, really. One of the things that kept us stable was the fact that my mother insisted that we'd all gone to church and continue to go to church. So I actually grew up in a church environment, although my father never went to church except at Christmas and Easter, up at the Presbyterian. My mother was very much, I wouldn't say a Methodist, but she liked the Methodist church. So I was at Miller Memorial Church, Tottenham, and I got my grounding there as a young man. However, when I was about 12, I moved to the Presbyterian church because I didn't want to be in the Boys' Brigade. I wanted to be in the Scouts. And then I discovered I had to wear a skirt, or better known as a kilt. And it was very embarrassing walking up and down the high road with the band in a skirt. But Tottenham toughens you up, and I enjoyed the second Tottenham Scouts. So I have a background in scouting and church, which became very much my family, really, because my dad, bless him, was never there because of working to feed us and keep us clothed and to keep us dressed. So it was a sort of one of these, I think of it almost like a ping-pong ball, backwards and forwards between different families, different groups of people, but founded in God. As I got slightly older, I had to choose where I wanted to go and what to do. My first job was in banking, and I've got to admit it was one of the most boring jobs I've ever done.
We apologise for all the bankers.
Some banking jobs must be incredibly wonderful. Mine wasn't. I was in a local branch and did just very little. I think one of the exciting times was when we were raided by people with shotguns. And then we had the inspectors.
It's a strange thing to look forward to, Bruce, just to get a bit of liven things up a little bit.
But it was quite traumatic, and I actually gave up after. I thought, no, it's too dangerous a job, this banking. I'll go into the army or something less dangerous. But from there, actually, I went to work for it was during the 3-day week. The 3-day week was really good. Because you'd have to spend 2 days with candles and no electricity, and the other 3 days you'd work as best you could. And I worked for a company that dealt with electric light fittings, and I had to go and be a progress chaser. I'd never heard of what this job paid well. It was good money, and what the idea was, you had to phone up people and ask them where your work was. And my upbringing being church-led and scouts, I used to phone people up and say, hello, so-and-so Lightning here, how's this job number coming on? And the manager came screaming and said, what are you doing? And I said, well, I'm trying to get this job found. He said, no, give me that phone. Where's this? Effing this and effing that. And I sort of went, So it took me about 2 weeks to learn all these different
the new terminology for the job.
The jargon. And it worked. You'd just phone up and scream and shout at people, and they would make the work appear, and you would get people's lighting put in their houses. But I could only put it for a while, and it was a very interesting job. But that led me to other things, and it was, I don't know, difficult. When you're in office work, I moved into office work really, and office work again is very much like banking. I think I'm a people person. I like people. I don't like offices and paperwork. And I think if you see my office at home, it reflects that. My filing cabinet's a bin, so if it's on my desk long enough, it has to go into the bin. And people say, "Oh, do you remember this paperwork from so and so?" So nowadays, I keep it all on computer and iPad, so it's not so bad. But I used to say, I don't know where it is, but 9 times out of 10 it's in the bin. So I don't like paperwork, I don't like office work, but I do like people work. And in a moment of madness, I thought I was going to be an actor. So I went off to college to be an actor, and I went and did this piece from Shakespeare: if ifs and ands were pots and pans, would have no need for tinkers. And I thought this was great, absolutely did my best. And there was this little old man with a little cigarette in his mouth, puffing away in the corner. And as I went out, he said, "Don't give up the day job."
Full of encouragement.
And I went, "I haven't got a day job." He said, "Oh, you need a day job." So I said, "Like what?" He said, "Oh, you need to get into dustbin men. That's a good job." And he came up with a doorman, bouncer, pub landlord, working in pubs, barman, all this. And he said, or even nursing. Nursing's good. And I thought, I fancy that. So I walked into my local hospital and said, "Oh, I've come to be a nurse." And they looked me up and down and said, "You sure?" I went, "Oh, yeah, I want to be a nurse." I didn't have a clue. And luckily they took me on, and I started nurse training. And that was at North Middlesex Hospital in Edmonton. And I trained at the Prince of Wales Hospital, Tottenham, which was a beautiful old hospital owned by the Prince of Wales. It was known as the Prince of Wales's Hospital, and it was given to the Prince of Wales by Victoria to get him to do something, and it was for sort of people coming back from the Crimea.
All right.
So it was a lovely old hospital with lovely old standards, and it was a great place to learn. And we spent some time there. Spent 3 years in training to be a registered nurse. I was lucky. I managed to get a staff nurse place and then a junior charge nurse post on a ward looking after cardiac people. There's like a little cardiac part of a geriatric ward, really, and it was really difficult to staff because you needed staff to look after people who were having heart attacks, but you also needed the same staff to look after people who were wandering around in their PJs trying to wonder what day of the week it was, and bless them, they needed care and love. Now, most of these men had been through the army, so the first thing we did was we taught these people how to make beds. Well, they could teach us to make beds, actually. So they straightened themselves up. We got them out of pyjamas and got them into clothes, and we got things for them to do, and we got volunteers to come in and play games, because these people were in almost like long-term crisis waiting to go somewhere. So it's nothing new. This was back in the 70s.
Not much changes, though.
It was back in the 70s, and we might move on one or two people, but the bulk of the ward, and it was very much a Nightingale long ward, was there, and we had the 6 beds with the critically ill at one end, and the it used to be called geriatric care, which I think is dreadful, the care of the elderly at the other end. But we got the boys to look after themselves and to run things themselves and to do things themselves, to keep themselves occupied. And one day somebody came in and saw all this and said, this is wonderful, who did this? And unfortunately somebody said my name, and I was approached, and I don't know if the word's headhunted, but I was definitely scalped, because they took me and asked me to go and do training in the community. So I went off to be a district nursing, health visiting, and eventually a bit of midwifery.
Midwifery as well?
Yeah, total. I did school nursing with the Nitty Nora. I don't know if you can have a Nitty, but it was great fun. And we worked in Hackney. So I used to cycle up from Tottenham to Hackney and then cycle all round Hackney. I was a lot fitter in those days, less fatter, and it was a really good experience. I went on to do a tutor training and taught district nurses who came out of universities to learn how to interact with people in their homes and how not to be judgmental. I remember going to one home with an Irish sister who was taking me round as a student, and she said she'd just bought a mat and it was going to go outside this man's house. And what happened was, when we came out, the house was so unlivable inside and dirty, and this man just really should have been given a lot more care, and but there wasn't the care there is today, really. He didn't cope very well, so she used to say, when we come out, we wipe our feet so we don't speak. Well, there was a bit of Irish humour for you, but she was very good, and she taught me everything there was to know, and luckily things have changed. And then I moved up really into teaching a bit in colleges, and then from there started teaching people very much in small groups, and just as that was happening, HIV and AIDS exploded, and because I'd had some community illness training, they felt I would know about this new disease, and of course we knew nothing, and got involved with that. And of course, being by this time I'd moved to Kensington and Chelsea, which had St Mary's in the north, and Westminster and Chelsea is now called. It used to be St Stephen's in the south. We were between the two centres, so people came to the area, and of course we gave community care, and it was a very sad time seeing young people die. I think it's sad when people die anyway, but it's sad for those who are left behind if people die, have a good death, and I think we can have a good... One of the things we know that's going to happen is we're going to die. We're born to die. But it seems to be sad when you're nursing people your own age and they're dying. And when you didn't know why or how in this thing, and there were arguments about what it was going to be called, where we were going to deal with it, and eventually they settled on AIDS if you had a number of illnesses that could be identified. And young people died, and I taught people how to deal with that. I went around a number of universities talking to young people about safer sex. I had a wonderful session with I think it's called the Convention of Prostitutes at King's Cross. There was about 200 young ladies and a couple of men, and I had to talk about safer sex. I learned so much that day.
I was going to say, you're talking to somebody about a business they know well.
But we gave access to free condoms and various other things, and clinics and follow-ups and checks, and we managed to put down some of the fears that people had. But I do remember sort of cycling round my patch looking with my district nurses and young ladies hanging out the windows going, "Woo! Greasy!" Which gave me street cred, but it was difficult. I spent a long time in nursing, and then I sort of, as a manager, senior manager, I just got stuck in this, moved away from people again, and stuck in a desk. And I thought, I've got to do something. So I left and started working with Marie Curie through agencies and looking after terminally ill people at home. And I thoroughly enjoyed that. And I wanted to do something more. I felt the need to do something more. And eventually, talking to and working with an Anglican priest friend of mine, I got involved in the church. And that's about where we're at, really. And I got involved in the church, and I went off and trained up at Cambridge in the Cambridge Theological grouping, and that led me to my first church at Stepney, which was wonderful. We had people who couldn't come to church on Sundays because it was busy. They were like individual families. They were just mums and dads scattered around the area, and we arranged for them to come on a Wednesday, and we arranged for them to be picked up. And it started off as they came and had some lunch, and then the kitchen was condemned. As all these things do you try and do it right and it goes wrong. And we couldn't afford to do much about it, so we brought our own sandwiches in. And then from there somebody asked about having a prayer service, so we had a prayer service, then we had communion. And eventually Wednesday became the new Sunday. And we had about 60 people that would come every Wednesday, dance and eat. And then in the evening we'd have somebody from a local organisation that would bring along a film, and we'd watch a film together. And then we'd have leftovers from this bakery's not there now. It was Grudinski's, a Jewish baker, so used to send down all the cheesecake that was left over and bits. So we'd sit there. No wonder I got weight problems. I would sit there eating all the cakes, and we'd send all the ladies, and mostly ladies, home. And a few gentlemen, we'd take them all back home. And that became our Sunday. And it became very, very good. And we did a lot of work back in those days with the gangs in the area. And we managed to dissolve or move aside some of the gangs and some of the pressures. It re-emerged again a few years later, no matter where you sort of move one lot away and another lot come back, and it was silly, but it was a good grounding.
And so what made you decide to move away from London? I mean, you'd spend a lot of your life in London and sound like this, and I know the bits that you've edited out yourself. We've not edited this, ladies and gentlemen. Bruce has been editing it as he goes along, but what drove you to move out of London and down to the country?
Well, I was interested in a church down in Dover where they were doing work with immigrants coming into the country, and I felt it would be useful to work in a place where you could help people understand the new culture, so that I could understand their culture and share and learn together. And we moved down there, and just as we moved down to Dover, the government changed its whole planning on what it did with immigrants coming into the country and scattered them all over the country. So the issues that were in Dover that we went down to deal with were no longer issues. So we got there, and we still had English as a second language, and we had food banks, and the food bank still runs. We had community things allowing people to come in and learn and teach and share. And that worked quite well for a number of years. But with the changing government's idea about people not just being clumped in one place but scattered, it meant the things we'd gone there to do weren't actually needed. So we looked to doing just normal churchy things, really. Maintaining a congregation, which is the big thing now. Christianity or any religion isn't popular. It's a certain age group. Oh, they're all oldies. They're all people who are sad, and that isn't true, really. People have a faith, they have a vision, and they live with God in the Christian faith through Jesus Christ, and find a way of living in a mad world. And for them, that's happiness and a way forward. And that's my job, is to teach Jesus Christ as the saviour of all of us, whether we go to church or not. And I think most people know me. I don't ram it down your throat, and I don't say this is the only way. What I do say is taste and see, look and see. There's 4 churches in Chelsea. You've got enough choice. There must be something out there that's interesting religious-wise. And if it's not Christianity, there are other faiths that you can dip into, mostly at Chichester. But for me, obviously, coming from a Christian background that grounded me in care and love at a time when I perhaps didn't feel loved and cared for, because my father felt he had to provide for the family, and so doing excused himself from the family, and left children to grow up on their own, almost feral. And I was feral. I was a naughty boy. And in fact, it was being caught by a policeman stealing a rubber ball from Woolworths that led me really into my major encounter with church. And I was offered, back in those days, a clip round the ear, which you'd never do nowadays. A clip round the ear, nipping up to see the sergeant and be cautioned, which meant if I'd been cautioned, my dad would clip me round the ear, or going to Father David's morality class. I like the sound of that, actually. So I thought, well, no one's going to hit me if I go to class. So I was dragged off to a morality class, and Tottenham's always been a tough area. And I walked in, I was taken down, I was marched the whole length of the high road to Lansdowne Road, St Mary's Church, by the ear, and presented to Father David, who invited me in. I walked into this room, and it was the whole total nastiness of the whole area. The people in the gangs, the tough kids, scars and chains and flick knives, broken teeth, and that was just the girls. And we sat in there, and they were all reading from a book, which I found out was called the Bible. And it went round to me, and I couldn't read. and I just couldn't do it. And he just looked across and he went, "Oh, sorry, mate." He said, "Right, come on, everybody out." Everyone out, went out for juice, and he said to me, "You can't read, Bruce." And I said, "I can. I used to read comics and things." He said, "But you can't read properly, can you?" And I said, "No." And he said, "Why can't you read?" And I said, "Because I'm stupid." And he said, "What makes you say that? Why do you think?" And I said, "Well, my teachers tell me I'm stupid." And he said, "Well, you're not going to get very far with that." And he said, "Do you want to learn to read?" And I said, "Yes." And he said, "See me tomorrow." And I went to school the next day, and everybody was screaming in my classroom, "Oh, your father's here, your father's here. You're in trouble because he's in the headmaster's office." And I was thinking, my father, my dad wouldn't even know what school I go to, let alone. And I went up to the headmaster's office in trepidation, and there was Father David telling the head teacher, don't you ever tell any of your pupils they're stupid. And he said, "This boy will pass his O-level English, and there's nothing you can do to stop it. He's not stupid." And he pointed at me as I was standing in the door, and he said, "I'll see you tonight." And he turned round to the teacher and said, "In 2 years he'll have his O-level." And in 2 years I did.
Well done you.
Well done, Father David.
I can only say, it strikes you as a bit strange. I mean, you lived in some of the toughest and worked in some of the toughest areas in London. And when you wanted a real challenge, you came to Selsey. There we go. Well, thanks for coming in, Bruce, and talking to us and just giving us the edited version of your life up to yet.
Yep.
And I'm sure, I feel certain someday it warrants a book.
Well, I can share some stories.
But I know you don't like
on.
paperwork. Yeah. Anyway, thanks once again for coming in and letting people know, giving people some insight into the man that they see when they come up there.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Thank you, gentlemen. A wonderful story and shows how people can improve their lives from poor beginnings. I think we need some food suggestions now, so it's over to Keith's kitchen.
Hi, and welcome into the kitchen and out of the cold. Well, because it's cold still, and it should be at this time of year, I guess, we've got a couple of soupy type dishes for you this week. And the first one is chunky vegetable soup. Now this will serve 6, or you can eat it 2 days running, or whatever you like. And this is what we need: 2 carrots sliced, 1 onion diced, 1 garlic clove crushed, 350 grams of new potatoes diced, 2 celery sticks sliced, nearly couldn't say it, 115 grams of closed cut mushrooms quartered, 400 grams canned chopped tomatoes, 600 ml of vegetable stock, 1 bay leaf, 1 teaspoonful of dried mixed herbs or 1 tablespoonful of chopped fresh mixed herbs, 85 grams of sweet corn kernels. You can get those frozen or tinned, whatever you like, and make sure you drain them off first. 55 grams of green cabbage shredded, and some pepper, and crusty wholemeal or white bread rolls to serve with. And this is what we do. Put the carrots, onion, garlic, potatoes, celery, mushrooms, tomatoes and stock into a large saucepan, stir in the bay leaf and the herbs, bring to the boil and reduce the heat and cover and simmer for 25 minutes. Add the sweet corn and cabbage and return to the boil. Reduce the heat, cover and simmer for 5 minutes or until the vegetables are tender. Remove and discard the bay leaf, season to taste with pepper, and ladle into warmed bowls and serve at once with crusty bread rolls. Nice and quick, nice and easy, and really tasty. And our second recipe this week is duck jambalaya style stew. And this will serve 4, and this is what we need: 4 duck breasts, about 5.5 ounces each, 2 tablespoonsful of olive oil, 225 grams of gammon cut into small chunks, 225 grams of chorizo, outer casing removed. You need to take that off because sometimes it gets a bit chewy. 1 onion chopped, 3 garlic cloves chopped, 3 celery sticks chopped, 1 or 2 fresh red chilies deseeded and chopped, 1 green pepper deseeded and chopped, 600 ml of chicken stock, 1 tablespoonful of chopped fresh oregano, 400 grams of canned chopped tomatoes, 1 to 2 teaspoons of hot pepper sauce, or adjust that to taste depending on what you like, and some chopped fresh flat leaf parsley to garnish, and green salad and freshly cooked rice to serve. And this is what we do. Remove and discard the skin and any fat from the duck breasts and cut the flesh into bite-sized pieces. Heat half the oil in a large deep frying pan and cook the duck, gammon and chorizo over a high heat, stirring frequently for about 5 minutes or until browned on all sides and sealed. Now, using a slotted spoon, remove it from the frying pan and set it to one side. Add the onion, the garlic, the celery and the chillies to the frying pan and cook over a medium heat, stirring frequently for about 5 minutes or until they're soft. Add the green pepper, then stir in the stock, the oregano, the tomatoes and the hot pepper sauce. Bring all this to the boil, then reduce the heat and return the duck, gammon and chorizo to the frying pan and cover and simmer, stirring occasionally for about 20 minutes or until the duck and gammon are tender. Then serve immediately, garnished with parsley and accompanied by a green salad and rice. And there's another tasty dish for you for the colder weather. And that's it for this week. Now, if you've got a favourite recipe that you'd like to share with us, well, you can do that, because all you need to do is either record it onto something like your phone or any recording device. Really, it needs to be an MP3, and you can attach that to an email and email us at manhoodinternetradio@gmail.com, and we'll be only too pleased to either play it for you or to read it out and share your recipe with the other listener. And that's it until the next time. Bye for now.
Thank you, Keith, and that should give us the fuel to tackle another Kevin brain teaser.
Right, hello there, it's Kevin the Quiz with this week's Connections Quiz. 5 questions, 5 answers. What connects all the 5 answers? And question number 1 this week. Which English castle in the Royal Collection Trust is the oldest and largest occupied castle in the world? And it's English. Question number 2. In which Italian city would you find St Mark's Cathedral and St Mark's Square with its very expensive cafes? Question number 3, nice and easy. What is the capital city of Greece? Question number 4 about flags. Which Scandinavian country's flag is a white cross on a red background, and it's the oldest continually used flag in the world? It goes back a long time. And number 5, which Italian city is an anagram of Avon ER? So that's AVONER. Which Italian city? So what are the answers? But what is the very specific connection?
Thank you, Kevin. And with that, we've come to the end of the show, so it just remains for me to thank all our contributors, including Local Life magazine, our sound editor, John Mallett, our presenters, Alison, Kevin and Keith, not forgetting, of course, our producer, John Fletcher. So it's goodbye from me, Tony Wiener. Until next time, bye.